my friends and companions along this path of spiritual practice. So if you have been staying with this practice of meditation for these many months, I hope that this practice is settling in, taking hold, and helping to expand your experience of all that is happening around us and in us. In the 9th century in China, Zen Master Linji was very aware of the troubles, the problems, the challenges facing the world in his time. After giving a talk about Buddhism and meditation, one of the students came and asked a question and asked Master Linji to give a very simple and straightforward answer to the meaning of enlightenment, to the meaning of the Bodhisattva path, the path of the awakened ones. And this is what Master Linji said: to face the world and go crosswise. To face the world and to go crosswise. I'm drawn to that image for you and for me who are struggling to settle into this meditation practice. To face the world and to go crosswise. Not to go in parallel with everything else that's happening, but neither to go in a perpendicular direction and against the direction of the world. To face the world and to go crosswise is to resist being caught in that duality of going along with or going in a contrary direction. It's to refuse being caught in yes or no. I agree with you, I disagree with you. I like this, I don't like this. To go crosswise is to maneuver toward greater freedom, to appreciate how we got here, this predicament, but not to settle for either or, but to look for a differentiated, a more subtle and nuanced angle to move in an oblique direction, to search for a creative third path. To go crosswise is born of intimacy with this situation, this moment, this predicament that we are sitting in. To be intimate with the values and intentions and actions that have created the world as we experience it now. To move crosswise is to grab hold of the relational potential that nonetheless resides in this predicament of the world. To grab hold of that relational potential and then to direct it along that liberating arc of wisdom, compassion, and freedom. I think about that familiar movement from finding a house and then living into it as our home. We're very familiar with that distinction. At first we see a house. A house is about space, how large, how small, a location. And we tend to go into the house with a tape measure, and we measure all the rooms. That one is the largest room. That one is the smallest room. It's about 16 feet from the bedroom to the kitchen. It's about a 90-degree angle in that corner there. But that's what a house is. We use these universal, absolute measures, like numbers, to get a sense of this space of walls and floors and ceilings called a house. But something happens gradually the largest room that we measured out with this universal thing called a tape measure, this largest room is not so absolutely and universally large to the child who's looking for space to do gymnastics. A large room is entirely relative to whatever activity that child wants to be engaged in. And if it's gymnastics, the largest room might be that room that is not the largest according to the ruler, but because of the absence of furniture and toys and stuff occupying the room. We move from universal absolute dimensions to relative dimensions, to relative truths. And then ultimately, there is nothing like an argument, a bitter quarrel, that makes even the largest room feel all too cramped. Something has happened in the relational dimension that says even that large room feels all too cramped. We have moved from absolute universal dimensions to relative dimensions to relational dimensions. And I can't help but wonder that this movement from this house to a home might not be that different from how we do self and other. That as we sit with meditation, we might begin with universal dimensions. But those of us who are doing diversity work realize that these universal categories are woefully inadequate. That when we look at the neighbor, the other, in that relative space, we begin to realize a whole different set of truths and meaning. And that ultimately, when we move from the absolute and universal to the relative, to the relational, we learn that the relational realm reveals some of the most powerful and necessary truths so that our world might not just be a house, but a home for the human family. Master Lin Ji, in describing awakening and the path of the Bodhisattva, says, facing the world and going crosswise. It's about intimacy, friends. It's about meditation that helps us to see the oblique directions of creativity and freedom, so that in the relational realm, we might free ourselves for greater compassion and justice in the world. And so we continue with our practice.